leader not just have to believe in change, but have to believe change is constant. Change is there. If you don't manage change, change will manage you.
You're listening to the Building a Coaching Culture podcast. If you need to compete and win in the 21st century labor market as an employer of choice, this podcast is for you. Each week, we share leadership development, coaching, and culture development insights from leading experts who are developing world-class cultures in their own organizations. And now, here's your host, J.R. Flatter.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is J.R. Flatter, your host of the podcast, Building a Coaching Culture. I'm here with my co-host and sidekick, Lucas. Welcome back, Lucas.
Hello.
Just got back into the country.
Yep, coming from Colombia for a couple days.
We're real excited today. I have a special guest, Mr. Rod Aweina. And Rod, we're going to give you plenty of time to introduce yourself. But I just want to remind everybody, why are we here? We're here to talk about building a coaching culture. And the building piece is building your leadership bench, building the depth and strength of leadership inside your organization. Coaching, how do you access world-class coaches, but also how do you build coaches within your own organization? And then finally, culture development. What is culture all about? What kind of culture do you need in the 21st century? Our intended audience are leaders of any complex organization that need to attract and retain the world's best talent. And we think the way to do that is build a coaching culture and lead with a coaching leadership style. So with that, Rod, I'm going to pass the floor over to you and let you brag about yourself a little bit so everybody can get to know you and what you're all about.
Thank you, Jeff. My name is Rod Aweina, and I've been with Flatter for about 8 years now. And that's my second engagement with Flatter. So we did work together way back in Iraq, where I'm originally from. And we took care of a significant project back in 2008, 2009. In the United States, we worked with the Department of Defense and several programs and projects. My background, I have a bachelor's in finance and accounting, and then I'm working on my MBA right now, which is focused on project management and finance as well. I like more to be on the field, work on projects, work on change. I like change, and I like to work on different projects that starts and ends. I work on a project that led to meet you, JR. So that was a great project with a great opportunity to see you and meet you and work with you, which was establishing the financial infrastructure in Iraq, the Iraqi payment system that was funded by the Treasury and implemented by a U.S. firm. But the implementation led to meet with you where we wanted to utilize that system. So the system was there, but was not being utilized. So our project was to make the entire country and the population and to get to use to the banking industry and move from cash to banking systems. And that was our project back in Iraq, which required a lot of change management and a little bit of coaching, although the coaching concept way back when, to me, was not how I understand it today. But it took a lot of coaching to the people in Iraq so they can see why banking and the modern financial systems better than cash. Looking back now, we use a lot of coaching skills in this project, but I never, got to link the dot between my understanding of coaching right now and what we did in Iraq. And then I've got my visa to come to the United States with your help, and thank you so much again for this tremendous help. When I came to the United States, I did have this dream already back in my high school days and even middle school days, but I never thought about an actual strategy. So start realizing this in maybe my early career in project management, where why would I want to go to the United States? It was just a dream, but I start talking with my wife about it, my family, and see if they support me in this decision, leaving them and moving to a new country. A lot of unknowns, how to be successful, what to do, what right, what wrong. So I learned a lot. This is something I use a lot, journaling my thoughts and journaling my discussion with my wife and comparing this, what I'm doing to my strategy. What do I need to do? What programs are there? What type of help I need to do? What do I have to do myself so I can align myself into an immigration status? And then what do I do there? How to be successful? I just don't want to go there and not knowing what's in the other side. So I told my wife always I wanted to go and keep my white collar career and grow it. Mm-hmm. And she supported me on that, of course. I still remember I put USA and then listed the immigration programs there and how to get there, what the requirement for each program, what steps, timelines. It's like planning for a project, which it was. And one day I had the Pentagon as background in my screen. So I told my wife, "What do you know what this building is?" She said, "No." I told her, "This is the Pentagon." And she goes like, "Why do you have it in your background, the screen?" I said, "I'm going to work there in the Pentagon." And she just laughed at me. She's like, "You're crazy." It was a couple of years later, got my visa, moved. I continued working with the same project, which is a Flatter had. So I had to go to the Pentagon for a few meetings. And I told my wife, remember that. So she said, I know. The story is like how to make a strategy happen is how to think about it every day, have a plan, think about what the requirements are, and work every day. Discuss it with your family, discuss it with your loved ones to see if they support it or not, and see if you have not just the will, but the ability to do it. And if I lack some of the ability, what do I need to do to cover those gaps so I can make this step forward? So, and then we made it, and in the United States, about a year working here in the United States, there is a new project to do the same work that we've done in Iraq to establish and strengthen the financial infrastructure for Afghanistan. So I picked up a project and we did go there. It was easier because I've done it before now. And I have a lot of lessons learned, a lot of benchmarking. We didn't have to do a lot of innovation thinking and creative thinking like we did in Iraq. So it was an easy one, but it took a little bit longer time because of the infrastructure in the country was a little bit different. But I learned a lot about project management, strategy, stakeholder management, and coaching. That was really significant because you're changing mindsets, you're changing cultures, and coaching, I figured the only way is to have the buy-in from the stakeholders, the beneficiaries from those countries to be open and try to use the new technologies, the new system, the new culture, and accept it. So I figured coaching was one of the essential tools that made us successful to implement such culture-changing projects. And came back from Afghanistan. We gained a lot of experience dealing with technology. So we picked up a lot of technology projects with the Department of Defense. And we developed a lot of software applications. And I really enjoyed the project management of technology projects. And then the transition we led from waterfall to agile style and the collaboration and small sprints, which again, coaching was very relevant to how to collect your requirements, listen to the leaders, listen to the stakeholders, to the users, and implement these small sprints and how to lead your intergenerational teams from Jay-Z all the way to baby boomers, and what type of leadership tools to use in order to, collaborate and work with those teams and bring them all together. And I found coaching was really, really effective tool beside servant leadership to help the agile teams to be working together collaboratively, successfully, transitioning to a virtual environment that was forced to us because of the pandemic. And I found teams who already established in a collaborative environment with coaching cultures established have been really successful, especially if their leaders believe in coaching, believe in collaboration, believe in servant leadership. Those teams were really successful. Virtual and technology was just the infrastructure, but the culture is really, really essential of the success of project teams. So I really enjoyed all of this journey with Flatter, with the company, with a lot of teams that we work together. And finally, I've got my MBA almost to the very end. I'm working on my final project right now and scheduled for hopefully for graduation by the end of February once I deliver all of my requirements and my projects and a lot of writing. But I'm really happy to see myself in this stage right now where, finishing my academic journey, but picking up on a new mindset, which is servant leadership, intergenerational leadership, and coaching culture, how to build coaching culture, how to establish this across teams and utilize it as a tool to facilitate success for people and societies and teams. So that's my journey, career journey, immigration journey. I have my wife here with me, so she's also with me all the way. And we always talk about families, work, self-balance. And we manage this balance together. And I realized after I start learning about these concepts that, I did it naturally because of our relationship, me and my wife. But it's very essential. If you don't have the family support to where you want to head or where you want to go, it's not going to work. Otherwise, you'll end up either by yourself in the road or somebody's not happy, which is not a successful team this way. That's another concept that, in family, work, self. And I'm from naturally doing it to deliberately thinking about it and doing it and even better and managing this balance and making sure we're all together as a family. And as like you probably know, JR, she's just got accepted for her PhD. So she's very excited. She started and she already got 3 credits done. And then she's working on 3 more credits from her previous career jobs and master's degree. So we're very excited for this. And my daughters, that's very important because one of my goals to come to the United States, besides, I love the country, is that I wanted my generation to be better than me and my wife. So what we bring to the society is more productive, better than us. So that's my thought, to have a better generation, and hopefully they will have even better. And that's how societies and cultures develop to the better. I'm looking forward to continue enjoying, working with you, JR, and Lucas, and everybody here, and enjoy to see my family grow with me as well.
Yeah, what an incredible story. What an incredible journey.
Thank you.
There's a lot of stories behind the scenes that you and I have that are secrets. But I wanted to jump to Lucas and say, Lucas, you work with Rod. Describe for me his leadership style as you work with him all these years.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I guess my journey, like in my career, started in 2014 when I graduated. Later that year, started working at the DoD doing web applications, and Rod was actually the project manager at the time. So I would say there was a learning curve for myself back then, first professional job. So at the time, I felt like Rod kind of met me where I was, and I wasn't as mature as you see me now, buttoned up and everything. So I mean, some things, he was really patient in that regard. But then as I continue developing and maturing myself, he's also evolving the way that our relationship is, and he's been kind of not just a manager, but, helping me in different ways and mentoring me in different ways. So that's been really helpful. I guess that's the main aspect. Just he kind of knows where I am, and through conversations and getting to know me and to change his approach. And it never feels like it's, he's just reading a textbook and saying, okay, I should treat my employees this way. It's always very personal.
Yeah, I just saw you guys coming back from lunch today. That was warms my heart to see that.
Staged.
And Rod, it strikes me that you're a global leader. You led at home, you led in Baghdad, you led in Afghanistan. Now you're a very, very successful leader here and a very, very successful coach. How do you bridge all those cultures and all those intergenerational challenges? Like there's 3 different generations right here, and you're leading all 3 of us. So talk to us about what goes on in your mind and on purpose or naturally.
So naturally and on purpose, come together, is to accept the idea of diversity. And it's working with Lucas, working with intergenerational folks from different generations, people from different cultures, from different origins, accept this, and not just accept it, but believe that you can be even more powerful leader with all of these colors of cultures and backgrounds, because that's where you get different ideas, different thoughts, different perspectives. And if you praise this, not just accept it, but praise it and encourage it, I found myself that, I got in turn accepted by my teams, whether if it was a project that we do here or whether overseas. Not just Afghanistan, Iraq, we've done, a lot of testing, a lot of our environmental testing and training and all of these kind of like project activities in the Middle East, in different areas, in Dubai, in Turkey, in Jordan. We did a lot of work in those countries. And accepting different cultures and praising different cultures, you will see this naturally in return. And you'll see people, teams will be willing to work with you. And when they understand the intent, like my intent is to make sure that they have what they need to be successful, whether it's education, whether it's a certificate needed, whether it's a training that we need to provide to bridge any technical gaps for the team to work successfully. When they see this, they do in return believe in you as a leader, and they want you to be successful. So they believe this plan and this leader works with us and helping us. And we want to make sure we're successful as well, because it returns to everybody, whether it's a financial return or whether it's another opportunity, whether it's a career growth. So they believe that there's a good reason and good intent behind this relationship. So diversity, inclusion, and accepting this idea and actually praising it, encouraging, and open the door to people. And sometimes you see somebody from a culture that, they think that it's not good to talk a lot. But if you give them the chance or the opportunity to talk and talk about what you think and what they think and what ideas they may have, you may see new ideas. You may see new kind of like, methodologies or, new ways to implement, do work. And you can see new stuff from them that they can, bring to the table. This empowers the team, empowers the leader as well. So believe in your team, they'll believe in you. Be open to the team, they'll be open to you. Work hard for their success. They'll work hard for the project's success and for your success as well. So it's a mutual relationship. That's the way I see it.
What really resonates there is, like being able to make it like a point of positivity, like praising that communication and perspective, because, if you're not sharing that positive feedback and like making that part of the conversation, then people aren't as open when there's, things that you need to change or criticism or this and that. So that's pretty important.
So one of the things we talk about, and I hear you saying a lot, is this intersection of the personal and the professional. We're in the 21st year we're in the 23rd year of the 21st century. I got it backwards. And they're so intertwined right now that it's challenging to even attempt to separate them. Talk to us about some of the ways that you encourage and support personal and professional achievement as a leader of a complex organization.
We all have our, professional lives and personal lives. And we have our hobbies, our desires for, personal projects or personal things we wanted to do. I mean, it's interconnected and not maybe. Like, for example, how to, it's hard to explain it, but let me think about, going to work and managing work and career growth, career goals, and then personal desires and personal goals. I don't know how to explain it, but to me, it's all together. My hobbies is to travel, for example, and my wife. We love to travel, and how to make some time and to how to make some, plans to, accomplish this personal / family hobby to travel the world. It requires time, it requires money, it requires planning. And you have your professional life, you have your all what's going on, and how to balance these together. So I think balancing those two is the best way to put it together. Because I was thinking, what the best word to connect the professional and the personal life and goals. It's actually balancing them together, and even though they might be totally different. Maybe a doctor loves fishing, totally different, but it doesn't mean they don't work together. But it's just balance this life and personal desires and work maybe that way. So I that's the only thing I can see.
What about you, Lucas? I know you just got back from a trip. How important is that to you to do those kinds of things and yet still deliver excellence at work?
I mean, everybody needs to, disconnect at certain times. And you want somebody to come back on Monday or after a trip and feel energized and like they want to give 100% at work. But in order to get that level of performance, you really need to be able to take care of yourself and spend time with your loved ones and, go fishing and all that. So, yeah, and think about it kind of like, you're raising a kid going to school, and school's their job, but you're going to use their like hobbies and interests to encourage them. And, you don't want it to interfere with their school. So I'm not going to say like, oh, Rod, I'm going to take off next week and, at a drop of the hat. But at the same time, if I need to go to Colombia to visit Lena and my wife and son, then we plan it and we figure it out. And then, I'm back and 100% now and I feel great. So I think that's kind of the balance there.
For me, from an owner's perspective and a chairman's perspective and the chief learning officer, it's the difference between celebrating your personal and accepting your personal. Like, oh, you're going to do what? You're going to go to Florida for 14 days and you're not going to be here to serve me? And that's not a coaching culture. But, oh, you're going to go to Florida, you're going to have a great time, and I want to hear all about it when you get back. That's what we mean by a coaching culture, celebrating the personal and the professional. Your daughters are in college or getting ready to go into college, or you have a new child. So one of the things we do to this day, and I had an accountant early on in the company, strongly recommend we stop doing this. We send birthday cards, handwritten birthday cards, anniversary cards for the children, birthday cards, celebrating graduations, and celebrating the hard times as well. That's part of how you get that world-class coaching culture that we're talking about. Do you celebrate those things or do you begrudgingly accept them? It's not a secret to anyone that we're in a hyper-competitive labor market. Rod, you're trying to recruit people every day. Lucas, you as well. It is a hyper-competitive market. And how do you make that differentiation? This is one of those ways. People want to come to work. Most of us have a gigantic W in our life for most of our life. That's one of the realities of being a grown-up. But can you enjoy that gigantic W and have a family and have a self? So, hey, Rod, I wanted to go back a little bit. You talked about change management a couple of times, and I distinctly remember meeting you. Not like it wasn't a significant event, but your reaction when I described what we were going to attempt to do was priceless to me. We just met each other. We come from two very different places in the world. And I told you something to the effect of, we have a blank chalkboard. We have no guidance other than our imaginations. And this is what we need to accomplish. So talk us through that process of how you put pencil to chalkboard or whatever the analogy would be. And we started forming that plan and then went and executed. It was really phenomenally successful. So talk us through that process.
Okay, so change management. First of all, leader not just have to believe in change, but have to believe in change is constant.
Yeah.
Change is there. If you don't manage change, change will manage you and kick you off of the road. Because especially now with today's world, not even like 20, 30 years ago, with technology evolving and getting into every aspect in our lives, and technology is changing maybe every minute is changing. Every minute there's a new idea somewhere in the world that's taken over. And if you, as a leader, if we don't believe in change or if we resist change, then I'll say good luck. So I think some leaders are naturally, like change, and that's why we see people like to work on projects, and other people like to work in constant operational environment, which will have less change. But there's no change. There's always change. Even if we talk about some industries that did not have a lot of impact or a lot of interactions with change, but they do now because of technology is getting everywhere, into industry, into agriculture, into even leadership, and every single concepts of or industries, you see technology there, and what we call hyper competitive, and the hyper competitive. What is this? It's change. So if a leader don't believe in this or refuses this, that's not going to lead to anywhere. So welcoming change and accepting, that we got to manage this. That's you get this off the road. Now you get a focus. You believe in your project, and you believe that in your capabilities. You have to assess self as well, because always we need to make sure that we have the knowledge we need to have, the resources we need to have, the team we need to have, so we can manage a change or manage a project, basically. We always talk about will and capability. So will is, the will to accept the change and make the change, and then the capability to, am I able to do this? What do I need to do? What resources I need to do this? What expertise I need? What type of teams? What type of technology I need to make this change? And then we move from these high-level thoughts to basically develop a work breakdown structure to see what do we need to do to accomplish this. And then we talk about more details. Remember all the charts that we developed, all the way to the very detailed activities, to what X needs to do every day. So it contributes to that big work breakdown structure. And then now you know all what you need to do and how long each one of these activities needs to take. Now you can build your schedule, the big picture. And then you know your resources, have your schedule, you have a great project plan to kick off now. But again, you have to have also the leadership. Project is not just telling people what to do and let go. You have to have leadership skills to manage your team, support your team, empower your team, serve your team as a leader to make sure they have all what they need to be successful to the expectations and build these relationships with your team and then with the external stakeholders, the beneficiaries, the users, build this relationship. Because even if you have the best project plan in the world, without these harmony and relationships internally and externally, there's no way that this project can be done the way it could have been with all of these positive harmony and support. Because you're never going to buy in from somebody that you don't have a relationship. How are they going to believe you? How are they going to think that you're the best one that can do this project? How they can believe in this without a relationship, so they can know you, they believe in you, and then they can trust you as well. Because it's all of this interpersonal work require trust. How Lucas can trust me that I can manage this project successfully so he can work hard on it. How JR can trust me so he can pick me as a project manager for this project. This is all about trust, about relationships, about harmony, and that's where communication comes in place. That's where understanding cultures and being open to cultures, accepting cultures, diversity and inclusion, these all come to place as side kind of like tools or concepts to support. These are infrastructures that you can build, and so your project and your team can work together. So it's not easy.
No, thank you for that. Lucas, you're a computer scientist in the 21st century. I know you've stared at a couple of blank chalkboards in your day. What thoughts do you have for our listeners about how to start creating out of nothing?
A certain degree of it is you need some expertise to be able to, really dig deep into something. And that's that depth of knowledge. And so Rod was talking about, managing all these external changes and all that chaos and, change being constant. And you kind of need to almost insulate yourself from that a little bit. And so like, if you have a leader, then hopefully they're taking account of all these shifting variables and everything, and kind of keeping that work breakdown structure and roles and responsibilities really clear. So if you're an expert, you can stay and like do your code and think really hard about things and give yourself that time and space. The worst thing is if you have someone instructing you and every single day there's a new thing on fire, and then the experts, they're constantly shifting focus and then not digging deep into anything. So I guess like from the creating out of nothing aspect, I think you need that quiet and that time and that space. And so like, I think as a leader, you kind of need to give that to people if you're doing something that requires that.
So Rod, before we let you off the hook today, you got to tell us one of your secrets of success across all of the experiences you've had and where you're heading into the future. What's one of those constants that breaks you out of the pack and provides you success that you've obviously have had and will continue to have?
I think two things. One is love what you do. If you don't love what you do, you have to find something you love to do. But you can love what you do right now, and just every single accomplishment, celebrate with yourself. So if we have a new program to build and I have to build a team, every team member I bring to the table and score a deal, I celebrate even with myself. And then I'll let Oliver, let everybody know that we have 1 from 5 we're building, 2, 3. Every single accomplishment I celebrate it, and that what makes this connection between what yourself and what you do. That's how you love what you do. Celebrate your accomplishments. And the other thing is learn. And again, we just talked about change, and the world is changing every minute. And if we keep the knowledge that we have today, tomorrow we will be behind. So you have to learn. Today, with technology, a lot of venues, a lot of channels that you can learn from, whether you want to read a book or podcast, watch videos, there's a lot of things in the world now you can learn from, and read articles. Sometimes you don't need to have a whole book to learn something. So a lot of small articles. So I read every day, I do read books, but not necessarily I have to read a book every day. I have to learn something every day. Sometimes from a conversation with somebody, I learn something. Sometimes, a team member, have a chat with them, a monthly meeting, and I learn something from them. Sometimes I watch YouTube. I love, sitting on lunch sometimes if I'm in the office by myself. My not eat lunch alone is my YouTube, watch something there. So learn something from there. And if there is a new project that requires new skills, I seek to learn these skills. If it requires certification, we'll do that. If it requires just training, we'll do that. Learning makes people comfortable with what they do, and once they start being comfortable, they'll be successful. Once they be successful, they'll celebrate their win, and that's how they love their job. I think that's the two things. Learn always and love what you do. These two leads to success and a lot of connection with not just with the job, but with the people, your people. Like we said, I enjoyed my lunch today with Lucas, and I learned from him. We talked a little bit about some technology, and I learned today something new. And we continue to build this relationship, and we talked about some future projects to accomplish. So, we really enjoyed the lunch, and we talked about stuff casually. I didn't plan for it, but because we love what we do here and we have this good relationship, I think we're already accomplishing stuff without even we thinking about it. So love what you do and learn a lot. So that's
great. Thank you. Lucas, you get the last question for Rod. What's on your mind?
You were talking about like how you like to manage, those kinds of projects that are blank slate, and so especially with tech specific to managing and leading technical projects that you think you've learned, or what really attracts you to them, I guess.
So planning, and specifically deliberate planning, understanding not just the need, but what's going on in the world. You're building a new project, a technology project, you're building new technology. Who's going to use it? What competition in the market? What other environmental impacts? What today's world look like impacting this product that you're going to deliver? So that leads to, deliberate planning. You just not just plan for a project, but plan for all the aspects that surrounding the project. Look at the result. Imagine your result, your product, and it's going to go out to the world. How it's going to work? How it's going to be accepted? What other competing products in the market? How people perceive it? So detailed planning and deliberate planning would lead to the right implementation. Have in mind the coaching culture, the agile, the servant leadership, intergenerational, these concepts we talked about. Keeping also in mind, planning should end at some point so you can start executing, because planning can't take forever. You can put the best plan together, but if you don't kick off your execution, so you have to have a hard line between, although you're from technology, so agile, always planning could be elaborating as you execute when you do sprints. At least for your sprint level, you have to have the plan set, and then so you can execute that sprint. So, but you have to have it deliberately planned and solicit feedback from the team, engage your team in the plan so they have the buy-in in it. With the stakeholders, when I say team, stakeholders, everybody in the project, because you don't have a buy-in if you come up with the plan just by yourself.
Well, thanks so much for being here. It's always a pleasure. I could tell stories about our times together all day long. So we'll see you soon. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, JR. I appreciate the opportunity, and thank you for having me here. Appreciate it.
Well, that concludes this episode of Building a Coaching Culture. I truly hope that this episode was helpful to you. If it was, be sure to follow us wherever you listen to podcasts. Maybe stop and give us a rating or a review, and share this podcast with someone who might find it helpful as well. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.